Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Connor Blake had golf in his blood since he could remember. At 7, while other kids chased soccer balls, he spent entire afternoons on the golf course in Connecticut where his dad worked as a groundskeeper. The man didn't make much, but he had one precious perk. Connor could use the course outside peak hours, practicing swings with old clubs discarded by members. There was no glamour there, just obsessive repetition. Swing after swing, hole after hole, Connor turned that course into his second home. He didn't have dazzling natural talent, but he had something more valuable, unshakable discipline and a hunger to beat his own history. Growing up as the groundskeeper's son in an elite sport wasn't easy, but Connor learned early that results spoke louder than last names. At 28, after years of grinding on minor circuits, Connor achieved the impossible for someone from his background. He earned his PGA Tour card, the golden ticket that let him compete in the world's most prestigious professional tournaments. He wasn't Tiger Woods breaking records or Rory McIlroy signing million-dollar deals. Connor was the steady, reliable guy who finished between 30th and 50th in most events. Each placement in that range brought anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000, depending on the purse. It wasn't fortune, but it was honest money, enough for a comfortable life, light years away from the financial trailer park he'd grown up in. Modest sponsors covered his equipment and travel expenses. Connor was constantly on the road, Dubai with its scorching heat, Scotland with its wind-swept historic courses, Japan with its flawless precision, Australia with its unpredictable greens. 3 weeks out of every month, he slept in hotels, ate at airport restaurants, lived out of a suitcase and a golf bag. Rachel came into Connor's life 6 years ago at a gym in Orlando, where he trained between tournaments. She was a personal trainer, her athletic body sculpted by years of weightlifting and spinning classes, her confident smile lighting up the room. Connor was doing squats when she approached to correct his posture. The chemistry was instant. Rachel was 26, independent, and said she didn't mind his constant travel. They married 2 years later in a simple ceremony in Florida, with just close family and a few friends. Rachel kept working at the gym, maintained a solid client list, and managed the couple's finances with efficiency. When Connor was away, she sent supportive texts, photos of the house, funny memes. "Love you, champ. Go out there and crush it," she'd write before every big round. Connor believed he'd found the perfect partner, someone who understood the sacrifices, didn't complain about the distance, and built her own life regardless of his presence. They didn't have children. They'd talked about it a few times, but always put it off. Connor wanted to stabilize his career first, maybe land a win that would elevate his sponsorship level. Rachel agreed, said she had time, there was no rush. The routine worked. He traveled, competed, came home for a few days, then left again. Rachel kept the house spotless, tended the garden, posted healthy recipes on Instagram. Neighbors saw them as the perfect couple, he, the dedicated athlete, she, the understanding, independent wife. Everything seemed to fit. Then came the Italian Open in Rome. Connor had played that tournament twice before, finishing 41st and 38th, not bad, but not noteworthy. This time, something clicked. Maybe it was the spectacular course surrounded by Italian cypress trees, maybe the incredible food that lifted his mood, maybe his moment had simply arrived. Connor played the first 3 rounds solidly, staying among the top 10. On the final Sunday round, he found that zone every golfer seeks but rarely reaches, that mental state where the club feels like an extension of the body, where every shot flows naturally. He was 2 shots behind the lead when he reached the 18th hole, a demanding par 4 with a raised green guarded by tricky bunkers. His approach shot left the ball 12 feet from the cup, a brutal distance for a decisive putt. Connor studied the green, felt the subtle slope, visualized the line. When the club struck the ball, he knew. It rolled in a perfect line, curled slightly left with the contour of the ground, and dropped into the hole with a satisfying sound that echoed through the tense silence of the crowd. Birdie. Victory. The applause was deafening. Connor raised his arms, genuinely stunned. He'd won an international European Tour event, televised to dozens of countries. The post-victory interview was emotional. Connor thanked his father, who'd passed away 3 years earlier and never seen his son compete professionally but had planted the seed of that dream. And he thanked Rachel, "My wife puts up with my absences with a patience I don't deserve. This is for her too." The clip went viral. Within 24 hours, it had 3 million views. Connor Blake was no longer just another name buried in the middle of the PGA Tour standings. He had a face, a moving story, a quiet charisma that won people over. American sports reporters started covering him. Profiles were written. His Instagram gained 50,000 followers in a week. Jason Reeves, 34, was a freelance sports reporter living in Orlando, curiously just 3 blocks from Connor and Rachel's house. Jason had a YouTube channel with 180,000 subscribers, mostly covering local athlete stories, but he always hunted for the different angle, the human story behind the stats. When Connor won in Rome, Jason saw an opportunity. He wanted to do an in-depth piece, The Life Behind the Champion, how Connor Blake balances golf and marriage. Jason started quietly. He talked to neighbors and learned Connor and Rachel were polite but reserved. He went to Rachel's gym, signed up as a member, and watched from afar. Rachel was professional, friendly with clients, but Jason noticed something interesting. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she clocked out at 3:30 p.m., always taking the same afternoons off. Driven by journalistic instinct, Jason decided to follow Rachel on a Tuesday. She left the gym, drove 20 minutes to a modern condo near downtown Orlando, parked, and walked into the building. Jason waited. 40 minutes passed, nothing. He returned the following Thursday. Same routine. This time, Jason brought a professional camera with a zoom lens. He saw Rachel ring the intercom, get buzzed in, and then, through a third-floor window, watch a man open the door. Tall, muscular, tattoos visible on his arms. The man greeted her in a way that made it clear this wasn't just a casual visit. Jason froze. This wasn't a story about life behind the champion. This was a scandal. In the 2 weeks that followed, while Connor was in Spain competing in the Madrid Open, Jason documented everything meticulously. Rachel visited the apartment 6 times. Jason found out the man's identity, Brad Jennings, 34, a CrossFit instructor at another Orlando gym, single, his public Instagram full of shirtless photos showcasing his sculpted physique. Jason managed to record through a partially open window, capturing audio of intimate conversations and photos of kisses in the parking lot. In one recording, Rachel laughed and said, "Connor's so obsessed with his next tournament he wouldn't notice if I tattooed another man's name on his forehead." Jason faced a quick ethical dilemma. He could contact Connor directly, hand over the evidence privately. But Jason was a journalist, and journalists publish stories. Besides, the story had every viral element: a rising athlete, an unfaithful wife, betrayal at the moment of glory. Jason edited a 15-minute video, professionally produced, narrated with a serious but gripping tone. Title: The Truth Behind the Champion. While Connor Blake won in Italy, his wife was playing a different game. The video opened with footage of Connor's victory in Rome, his emotional interview thanking Rachel. Then came the twist: images of Rachel entering the condo, being greeted by Brad, evidence making it clear their relationship went far beyond casual friendship. Jason included a timeline, dates, cross-referenced with Connor's tournament schedule. The evidence was overwhelming. Jason posted the video at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. In 6 hours, it had 500,000 views. In 24 hours, 2 million. In 48 hours, 5 million. Social media algorithms amplified the content. Sports news sites reposted clips. Twitter exploded with hashtags. Connor Blake's name was trending, but not for the reasons he wanted. Connor was in a hotel in Zurich, Switzerland, preparing for the Swiss Open, when his world collapsed. He woke up at 6:30 a.m. to his phone vibrating uncontrollably. 247 unread messages. Dozens of missed calls from his agent, friends, even his brother in California who rarely called. Still groggy, Connor opened the first message from his agent, "Call me now. Urgent. Don't open social media until we talk." Connor, heart racing, didn't understand why, called. His agent answered on the first ring. "Connor, man, I'm so sorry. There's a video about Rachel. You need to see it, but brace yourself." Connor hung up, opened YouTube, typed his own name. Jason's video was at the top of the results. Connor sat on the edge of the bed, hands trembling slightly, and clicked. The next 15 minutes destroyed 6 years of marriage. He saw his wife, the woman who slept beside him when he was home, who kissed him before trips, who told him she loved him, repeatedly entering another man's apartment. He saw kisses, caresses, intimacy meant to be theirs alone. He heard her joke about him never noticing. Connor watched until the end, feeling a rising wave of nausea. When the video finished, he sat in silence for 5 full minutes, processing. Then he picked up the phone and called Rachel. She answered with a cheerful voice, unaware of anything. "Hey, love. How's Zurich?" Connor, voice terrifyingly calm, said only, "There's a video on YouTube. Search my name and watch." Silence on the other end. "Connor, what are you talking about?" He repeated, each word delivered with icy precision, "Search my name on YouTube. Watch the first video that comes up. Then call me back." He hung up. 15 minutes later, Rachel called. She was crying, desperate. "Connor, I can explain, this isn't what it looks like," he cut her off. "It's not what it looks like. Rachel, there's video of you kissing another man. Entering his apartment 6 times in 2 weeks. There's audio of you making a joke about me not noticing. Exactly what isn't what it looks like." She tried to argue, talked about loneliness, about him never being home, about how Brad was always available. Connor listened for 2 minutes, then said, "I'm withdrawing from the tournament. I'll be in Orlando tomorrow at 2 p.m. When I get there, I want you out of my house." Rachel began pleading, but Connor hung up and temporarily blocked her number. Connor, for the first time in 10 years of professional play, cancelled a tournament for personal reasons. He booked the earliest flight to the U.S., connected through New York, and landed in Orlando at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday. He drove home in absolute silence, no radio, no music, just processing the destruction of his marriage. When he arrived, he saw Rachel's car in the garage. She hadn't left. Connor walked through the front door and found chaos, Rachel sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by clothes scattered everywhere, crying, her phone beside her showing hundreds of cruel comments on her social media. Jason's video hadn't just exposed the affair, it had publicly identified Rachel. Followers had found her accounts and were flooding them with harsh criticism. But what made Connor stop in the doorway wasn't Rachel crying. It was Brad Jennings, the lover, sitting on Connor's own sofa, visibly uncomfortable. Rachel explained through sobs, he came to pick up some things he left here." Connor blinked, processing the audacity. "Things he left here? In my house?" His voice was low, dangerously calm. Brad stood up, trying to sound conciliatory. "Dude, look, I didn't know it was gonna blow up like this. We didn't want you to find out this way." Connor stepped forward. "You didn't want me to find out anyway. That's the point." He looked at Brad with utter contempt. "You've got 30 seconds to get off my property before I call the police and file a trespassing charge." Brad, realizing there was no negotiation, grabbed a backpack from the corner and headed for the door. As he passed Connor, he tried to say something, but Connor cut him off. "No. Don't say one word. Just leave." Brad hurried out. Connor locked the door behind him, then turned to Rachel. She was on her feet now, wiping useless tears. Connor, please, let me explain. I made a mistake, I know it, but we can get past this. I love you. Connor let out a bitter laugh, devoid of humor. You love me? Rachel, you slept with another man on our wedding anniversary. I checked the video dates. Rachel went pale. She'd forgotten. Connor, I was confused, he raised his hand, silencing her. 8 months. The video shows it started 8 months ago. That was before my win in Italy. You were cheating on me while I was fighting, while I was finally getting close to winning. He shook his head, his expression a mix of pain and restrained rage. Did you watch my post-victory interview? The one where I thank you, saying you put up with my absences? I looked like an idiot, Rachel. An idiot in love, publicly thanking a wife who was cheating on him. Rachel tried to touch his arm. Connor stepped back. No. Don't touch me. I want you to pack your things and leave. Today. Now. Rachel, realizing she couldn't reverse the situation immediately, whispered, "Where am I supposed to go?" Connor picked up his phone and dialed his lawyer while Rachel watched. David? Connor Blake. I need to file for divorce. Today, if possible. I have public video evidence. Yes, that video. You saw it. Good. Can you start the paperwork? He hung up and looked at Rachel. Where are you going? That's your problem. You've got family, you've got friends, you've got Brad. But you're not staying in this house. Rachel packed her things, crying, throwing clothes randomly into 2 large suitcases. Connor didn't help. He didn't offer comfort. He simply sat in the kitchen, staring out the window, processing the end of 6 years. When Rachel finished, she paused at the kitchen doorway. Connor, one day you'll forgive me. I know you will. He didn't turn to look. No, Rachel. I won't. Because forgiveness implies you deserve a second chance. And you don't. She left crying, the door clicking shut behind her, the sound echoing through the empty house. In the months that followed, Rachel's life collapsed publicly. Jason's video kept circulating, accumulating views, dissected on sports podcasts and forums. The gym where Rachel worked was flooded with negative Google reviews, clients threatening to cancel memberships if she stayed. 2 weeks after the scandal, Rachel was fired. 90% of her private clients canceled sessions, some sent polite messages citing conflicting schedules, others were brutally honest about not wanting to be associated with that woman from the video. Rachel tried to defend herself on social media, posting a long message about human mistakes and judging without knowing the whole story. The response was overwhelmingly negative. Cruel comments flooded the post. She deleted everything within 48 hours. Brad Jennings didn't fare any better. His public Instagram profile, once full of clients praising his workouts, became a battlefield. Comments attacked his character, questioned his ethics. Women who trained with him began canceling, uncomfortable after learning he'd been involved with a married woman. The gym where Brad worked, trying to protect its reputation, strongly suggested he take a temporary leave. Brad, realizing Rachel was a problem he didn't want, ended the relationship via text message 3 weeks after the exposure. "This is too heavy. I can't handle the pressure. It was good, but it's over." Rachel, alone, without a job, without a lover, without a husband, moved in with her mother in another state. Connor, surprisingly, became a nationally sympathetic figure. The story of the groundskeeper's son who won in Europe and was betrayed by his wife while representing his country internationally resonated. Sponsors, instead of abandoning him over negative publicity, renewed contracts with better terms. Companies wanted to associate their brands with a man who held his dignity despite the betrayal. Connor received tens of thousands of supportive messages on social media, many from men sharing their own stories of infidelity. He was invited onto sports podcasts and morning talk shows, always maintaining a respectful but firm stance. It was painful, but we move on. Golf is my therapy. The divorce took 4 months. With undeniable public evidence and no children involved, the process was relatively quick. Connor kept the house, most of the joint investments, and had no obligation to pay alimony since both were employed professionals when they married. Rachel signed the papers without contesting, knowing the court wouldn't favor someone so clearly exposed for infidelity. 7 months after the scandal, Connor was at a cafe in Orlando between training sessions, waiting for his iced coffee, when he saw familiar movement across the street. Rachel. She was leaving a discount supermarket, carrying 2 plastic bags, her appearance noticeably less polished than before. Hair tied in a messy ponytail, simple unbranded clothes, posture slumped under an invisible weight. She looked over, saw Connor through the cafe window, and froze. For 3 seconds, they held eye contact across the street. Rachel hesitated, then deliberately crossed over, approaching the cafe. Connor didn't run. He simply waited, holding the coffee the barista had just handed him. Rachel walked in, stopped a meter away. "Hi, Connor." Her voice was tired, stripped of the confidence she once had. He nodded politely. "Rachel." Awkward silence. She tried to smile, failed. "Are you okay? I saw you qualified for the Masters." Connor shrugged. "I'm doing all right. Training a lot." Rachel bit her lip, clearly wanting to say more. "Connor, I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. Really. I ruined everything. I was wrong." Connor took a sip of his coffee, weighing his response. When he spoke, his voice was neutral, without anger but also without warmth. "You made choices, Rachel. Choices that had consequences. I don't hold a grudge, but there's no going back. You understand that, right?" She nodded, tears starting to form. "I know. I just wanted you to know I truly regret it." Connor put the lid on his coffee, preparing to leave. "I believe you regret it. Regretting the outcome is easy. Hard is not making the choices in the first place." He walked past her, pausing briefly beside her. "I hope you find what you were looking for, Rachel. Honestly." And then Connor Blake, the groundskeeper's son who became an international golf champion, walked out of the cafe and headed for his car without looking back. Rachel stayed standing, alone among empty tables, watching through the glass as he drove away, disappearing into Orlando traffic. She stood there for another 5 minutes, clutching her supermarket bags, before finally stepping out and walking her own path, a path infinitely lonelier and harder than the luxury of late regret could ever soften. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.